Welcome gamers to this week's vlog. It's been a pretty busy week for me this week with non-gaming related things, so I haven't played quite as much as I usually do, but let's see what games I have been playing and what trophies I've been earning. My first platinum this week is a game called Lost Words Beyond the Page, which is a great puzzle platform game with some very unique gameplay mechanics. You play as the protagonist Isabel, or Izzy as she's referred to, who is an aspiring writer that keeps a personal journal which you help her to write, plus also help her to construct a fantasy story set in a place called Astoria, where the lead character, who you actually get to name, is crowned Guardian of Fireflies and must restore lost fireflies to her village after it's been destroyed by a dragon. The game is split into two very separate gameplay modes. The first sees you jumping around on top of words in the journal and interacting with words and pictures on the page to allow access to the next journal page, while the story about what is going on in Izzy's real life and the close bond she has with her grandmother starts to unfold, and this takes you on a pretty emotional journey. At intervals in the story, however, you take over and control the protagonist of the fantasy story that Izzy is writing, where you will need to solve puzzles and navigate around using key words that can be used to interact with and manipulate the environment to progress, as you search each area so you can collect all of the lost fireflies so they can be returned to the village, whilst at the same time pursuing the dragon so that you can take your revenge for the destruction it has caused to your village. The game is a delightful experience and is fairly short at only around 5 hours or so, and the game was written by Rhianna Pratchett, who is the daughter of the famous fantasy author Terry Pratchett, and is a game that I can highly recommend. My second platinum this week was for Axiom Verge 2, which is my 4th ultra rare platinum this year and my 38th overall, plus it's another game that's now been busted from my backlog. It's a Metroidvania style game with a very retro looking graphics, where you play as a billionaire called Indra who goes to Antarctica in search of her missing daughter, where before long she's transported to an alien world called Kaingir, which is split into two parallel dimensions known as the Overworld and the Breach, with the Overworld somewhat resembling Earth and the Breach that appears to be more of a digital construct, and Indra is able to access the Breach using an artificial drone that she can then use to solve various puzzles and influence things in the real world. The game is pretty difficult in its standard form, but comes with accessibility options that can make you pretty much indestructible if you wish to have a much easier ride for the platinum journey. The game also has many different collectibles, all linked to different trophies, with some extremely well hidden, so a guide is recommended. Unless of course you're the sort of person that just loves to get lost in a world and explore every nook and cranny, along with randomly testing things for hidden paths and trying to find different secrets in the game, or trying to work out how to navigate between the two different dimensions and find these hidden areas. I love retro looking games and I did enjoy this game, but after a while I decided to take the slightly easier option of referring to the guide because some of the collectibles were extremely well hidden. There's also a speedrun trophy for completing the game in under 6 hours, but it's not a particularly long game, so this is pretty easy, especially when using a guide. Plus there's also a pacifist trophy for completing the game without killing any of the bosses, so in the interest of time saving it's very advisable to do these two trophies at the same time so that you're not wasting any time in boss fights while you're trying to speedrun the game. So a quick recap of all the trophies I've earned this week. Starting off last weekend, on the Saturday and Sunday I played one more dungeon. This was just to quickly get a trophy each day for my daily streak to keep that alive for the Ultimate Trophy Hunters Challenge. It's a procedurally generated dungeon crawler in a retro graphic style. Very good fun. I'll be covering more of that in future vlogs once I get the platinum, as it's a game that has been on my backlog, so I'm looking to clean that one up. Then on Monday I got the 100% on Call of Duty Advanced Warfare for the PS3. So that's all of the Call of Duties for PS3 that I'm going to be doing now complete. And then on the Tuesday onwards, I was playing the Lost Words Beyond the Page and also playing Axiom Verge 2, both of which, as you've just seen, that I got the platinum on. And that brings us up to date for today with 296 platinums, so just 4 more to that 300th milestone. And for that, I'm planning on making Aliens Fireteam Elite my 300th milestone. All I have left is one more trophy, which is just to max out some of the classes, and that's just a case of grinding out some additional XP. I did play some this week and ground out a few more levels, so I haven't got that much more to do. So I'm hoping that I can line that up in the next week or two, get a couple more platinums before then, and make that my 300th. So more about that in future vlogs, hopefully. So that's it for the games I've played this week and trophies I've earned. So I think it's now time to answer a couple of questions from my Discord community. With the first question this week being from Atababy It's a Boy, and that is, what do you see as the most difficult games in your backlog, owned or to be owned, to get the plat or 100%? Top 3, and why will it be tough for you specifically? Well, I'm not going to say games like Crypt of the Necrodancer, as I've already said that in previous vlogs, that rhythm games are not one of my sort of strong points. I don't really enjoy them, so it's not a game I would actually probably play anyway, even if it wasn't as difficult as it's reportedly to be. So by far the most difficult game on my backlog that I've already started is probably Jump King. I loved the retro look of the game, but the controls and precision needed to make the jumps, even at the start of the game, is extremely difficult, and that's before you even get to the trophies that then require you to wear items of clothing that make the controls insanely difficult. I will attempt this at some point, but my extreme patience, perseverance and many hours of playing to build up the muscle memory is going to be required if I'm ever to get that platinum trophy. Only time will tell if I'm ever able to do it. I think the second most difficult game for me will possibly be Super Meat Boy. It's a game that I've owned ever since it was given for free many years ago on PS Plus, and one that I will also attempt at some point. It is, however, another game that will need to have a lot of patience and perseverance with, and although I enjoy platform games, they're not my strongest genre, so I don't know if I've got what it takes to get through it or not. I would also say that you could probably add in Splasher as well, as it's a very similar sort of platforming game. But I think my third choice is going to be Injustice Gods Among Us. This is another game that I own on multiple consoles, plus I'm interested in playing it at some point, as I really enjoy superhero games. However, I've not actually played a proper fighting game since Tekken back on the PS1, which is a long time ago now, and I was never really good at them back in the old days of the arcades, so I just don't know if I've actually got the skills to be able to obtain the platinum on a game as hard as this, especially as it's a fighting game. But it does interest me, and I should really start to give fighting games a bit more of a go again. This week's second question comes from Rich, and it's, if you could merge 2 IPs together to make a super collab game, any IP from any system, what would you choose? i.e. imagine Sonic vs Crash Bandicoot, which would actually be a very good one to do. And I really sort of hard think about this because there are so many sort of fun sort of collabs that you could put together, and things like Dead Space and Resident Evil jump to my mind straight away. Also things like God of War and Devil May Cry I thought would make a good pair up. I love Lego games, and they already collab with many different franchises, but the one to me that I would absolutely adore seeing from that sort of collab, which has never been around, is Lego Back to the Future. And if one day that comes out, that would be probably my most favourite Lego game. However, I think the answer I'm going to give on this would be Uncharted and Tomb Raider. I just love both sort of IPs, and being that they're both sort of like going after treasure and hunting for the same sort of things, I think a game where you would play as Nathan Drake or Lara Croft together would be absolutely fantastic. And what I would do is to maybe sort of have a couple of different options. You could go with a way out style game where the two of you have a singular goal, but you have to work in tandem to solve puzzles and help each other to get to the treasure. Or you could take a spin of a versus instead and have it where two players would essentially go head to head, one playing as Nathan Drake, one as Lara Croft, and you would maybe start either side of a procedurally generated tomb, and you would have to race to get to the treasure in the middle, with the one getting there first claiming it. And you could put in sort of gameplay mechanics where as you do things it might trigger a trap for the other person. You might even be able to sort of interact with them, and you could maybe do that to help each other if you're both struggling, but also then try to hinder each other to try and then be the one that wins and gets the thing. I think it's a very interesting concept to have something where as a two-player co-op game, however you're doing it in a versus mode. So that would be my answer. I think Nathan Drake and Lara Croft battling it out or joining forces to try and find some hidden treasure in a procedurally generated tomb would be a fantastic collab. So that's it for another week's vlog. I just want to take this opportunity to say a very big thank you to the gaming legends you can currently see on screen who are my Patreon supporters. If you're interested in joining my Discord community, access is via Patreon and the link will be in the description. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, a like would be greatly appreciated, and if you haven't done so already, then please consider subscribing, as this really does help to grow the channel. Also, please do continue to leave comments. This week I'd love to hear what sort of big gaming franchises you would like to see as a collab, but also, as always, let me know what games you're playing and trophies you're earning. With that all being said, please enjoy your games, take care, and look after yourselves.